Hello GoldSilver family, Alan Hibbert here with another video, and today I want to do something a little bit different. I want to react to someone else's video. So I went to YouTube and I typed in why you shouldn't buy gold and silver, and a video popped up with almost exactly that same title, and I want to watch it for the first time right along with you guys and react in real time about what I think. So perhaps there's some really good arguments in there about why you shouldn't buy gold and silver. Perhaps it's emotional, perhaps it's based on historical data, perhaps it's forward-looking. I'm not sure what we're going to find, but I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's dive in. So this is the video right here, why you shouldn't buy gold, physical gold and silver. It's by Nolan Matthias, and it's got almost 1 million views. He posted it 3 years ago, but who knows? It could still be relevant today. I hope that it is. So let's take a look.
And what I found out was that the gold and metal shop that I bought this bar from, they knew what this was. They knew it was worth less, but because I was in there asking questions, trying to learn, trying to get educated by people who I thought were experts that were on my side, well, they basically took advantage of it.
Okay, so he's starting in the middle of a story here. Sounds like he got ripped off. Okay, that sucks. I think that's actually pretty common. And yeah, that's why you got to do a lot of research. You got to get educated on this stuff. So already I feel for him that, you know, that's a super big bummer. I guess we'll see what else he has to say. But so far, you know, if you're buying fake gold or fake silver, you're not buying physical gold or silver, you're buying fake silver. So obviously I wouldn't recommend that someone buys fake gold or silver. So anyways, let's see what he says.
Hey, welcome back. It's Nolan Matthias, and today I'm going to tell you about the stupidest and probably the coolest investment I ever made. But before we get into it, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. Okay, so let's get into it. What is the stupidest investment that I've ever made? And quite frankly, also the coolest investment I've ever made? Well, it's this. It's buying physical gold and silver. This is honestly one of the coolest things, being able to sit here and hold, basically in this pile alone, $5,000 worth of silver and having a little bit of gold kicking around as well. This is really cool. And this is an investment that started for me back in 2014. As silver prices were starting to come down, as the fear from the financial crisis was coming out of the market, and as there was starting to become more and more deals on buying physical silver and gold. And this was nothing that I ever expected that I would invest in myself, but it came about as a result of an investment newsletter that I was subscribed to that was all based around value investing. And value investing is the type of investing that Warren Buffett does. So finding companies that are worth a lot, that are undervalued, and investing in those. And that investment strategy is where the similarities to Warren Buffett ended, because they also got into the piece about having precious metals as a hedge against inflation and currency devaluation, and also holding it physically rather than in certificates or in ETFs.
Okay, I got to pause there. And so, yeah, the title of the video is why you shouldn't buy physical gold and silver. And he pitches it as the worst investment he's ever made. And one thing I'll say, maybe he'll get to this, is that buying gold and silver isn't an investment. You might consider it to be an inflation hedge or a hedge against, you know, other crises or other types of risks, and that's fine. But really the way I think about it is saving, right? Since gold and silver are money, holding them means you're saving. That's it. It's very simple. It's not an investment. There's no cash flow, no dividends, no yield, nothing like that. There's also very, very little risk. You just hold it. I guess it could be considered a hedge, obviously, against different things, but really it's saving. So when you start thinking about it as an investment and asking yourself, is it a good or a bad investment, you already start to build your logic and your argument on faulty premises. You really don't want to do that. So if you think about it as saving, then you ask yourself, should I save money? How much money should I save versus invest? I think you're going to make better decisions for yourself if you frame it like that. So let's see what he says.
So that if anything ever happened in a country that you lived in and you wanted to bug out to a different country, much like the Jewish people had to do in Nazi Germany during the World War II, well, physical gold and silver was the best means of doing that. Now, physical gold may have been a good means of being able to transport money over borders, which, by the way, I'm not recommending, but physical silver certainly isn't. You know, this is about $5,000 worth of physical silver, and it is heavy as hell. I think there's about 160 ounces here, so about 10 pounds. I wouldn't want to be carrying this on an airplane to go to Europe or some other country right now. But it was interesting because that value investing newsletter got me hooked on what's called stacking in the gold and silver world. And stacking is exactly what it sounds like. It's taking physical gold and silver and collecting as much as you can of it over a certain amount of years, and basically creating a hedge against inflation and currency devaluation as a result of having physical metal. And this is something that is just absolutely unnecessary as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, I'm starting to get the impression that he just wanted to make a video showing his collection. So, I mean, yeah, nothing wrong with that. But anyways, let's keep going. So he's saying that stacking gold and silver is unnecessary. Okay, let's hear why.
It's something that I did for a while. It was fun, but there are far better ways for me to invest in silver and gold, and that is by using my BMO investor line or my Questrade account in order to purchase mining companies, or if I really, really want to, certificates in physical gold and silver.
Okay, so physical gold and silver versus paper gold and silver. This is pretty big. So we talk about it a lot on this channel, but holding the physical stuff in your possession has a very different risk profile than either mining stocks or promises to receive gold. So gold ETFs or anything like that. So different investments, of course, will try to track the price of gold and silver, but they don't necessarily hedge against all the risks that you want to hedge against when you decide that gold and silver is a good investment for you or saving money. So for example, if there's a problem with a cyber attack or any type of digital problem whatsoever, if you have a gold ETF or a silver ETF, you're not going to hedge against those risks. You're going to be just as vulnerable as everybody else. If for some reason in your country the government seizes retirement accounts or freezes them or replaces them with government bonds instead of whatever's already in there, if you hold digital versions of gold and silver in all its many forms, that could be replaced. So you're not necessarily diversifying against the same risk profile when you get these electronic or paper versions of gold and silver as you would if you get physical gold and silver in your possession.
But, it was interesting because this investment was definitely an investment I learned a lot about, because one, you learn how the system works. Obviously, people who are buying gold are paying less for it than the people who are selling gold, because typically you have to sell to dealers, and they're obviously getting a better deal from you than you're getting from them. The other thing I realized was that there's a lot to know about buying physical gold and silver, and it's really easy to get screwed. And I'll use this bar as an example, because this is the very first bar of silver that I ever bought. It's a 10-ounce NTR Metals bar. I bought it from the exact same company that I bought this bar from, which is a Sunshine 10-ounce silver bar. I paid about $2 difference between this bar and this bar. This one I think I paid about $245 for, and this one about $247 for. And again, bought them from the exact same gold and silver shop, and I paid pretty much the same price. Now, what was interesting was a few years later, when I went to sell this bar, the NTR bar, back to that same gold and silver shop, they basically told me that it was worth 15% less than this one. So in today's terms, this bar is worth about $330. This one is worth $280. So there's about a 15% or a $50 difference between these two bars, even though they're supposed to be exactly the same thing. And what I found out was that the gold and metal shop that I bought this bar from, they knew what this was. They knew it was worth less, but because I was in there asking questions, trying to learn, trying to get educated by people who I thought were experts that were on my side, well, they basically took advantage of me. And they had these two bars sitting beside each other, and instead of picking up this one, they picked up this one, handed it to me, and charged me significantly more than what it was worth. And what I realized was that when you're dealing in gold and silver, the margins are so freaking thin that the companies that do business in this realm are basically incentivized to screw you if they can. And I've heard lots of stories now of people buying fake gold and silver, thinking that what they were getting was real, and ultimately getting stuff that absolutely was not.
Okay, super big bummer. I really feel for this guy. Unfortunately, he's right that number one, margins are very thin. Two, a lot of companies are incentivized to screw people over. 3, that doesn't mean that every company does it, because some companies try to compete on reputation, not just the short-term sale. So that is why I'm proud to work at this company, GoldSilver.com, because I believe in the ethics of the company. For example, we don't sell any collector's coins. We don't sell any collector's bars. Everything is investment grade. So you're not going to get something that has 15% less silver in it that's still charged like the full price. It's just not going to happen. So if you do go to a run-of-the-mill coin shop or metal shop, this is an absolute risk for you. You really have to know what you're doing, and you have to be able to test the products in real time. Otherwise, you might end up with something like what happened to this guy.
So this is definitely a situation where it's buyer beware. Now, as an alternative, I could have bought the exact same amount of silver that I own right here. I could have bought it in my BMO Investor Line account in a certificate, or I could have bought an ETF, and I could have been 100% certain that the silver I was buying was real, because an expert on the other side was taking care of making sure that it was real, and that I wasn't going to lose 15% of my investment just because I was an idiot. The other thing that I realized about this product was I have to physically store this in a bank safety deposit box, or I have to take the risk of storing it at home, having extra insurance, and risking having a fire or it getting stolen. And that all sucks. And that all adds to the cost of owning this investment. And
yeah, I mean, he is right. There is a definite added cost depending on how much gold and silver you want to accumulate. Some people do not feel safe storing it at their home. Some people feel more safe storing it at their home. You could go to a bank safety deposit box. I don't think that's a good idea, because the banking system seems very fragile right now. I absolutely would not use a bank safety deposit box for anything, including gold and silver. I've heard that you could go to a casino, which is open 24/7, and use their custody services, but haven't verified that for myself, so maybe you want to consider that. But yeah, you can also get third-party storage. So we offer that, of course. There's plenty of services available. Brinks has never lost anything that they've guarded ever in like 150, 200 years, something very crazy like that. So yeah, you do have to find storage options. You want to find somewhere that you trust that's going to store it well, just like you want to find someone that you trust when you buy and sell the products themselves. So yeah, there is a storage fee associated with that. That's part of the cost of investment, but you have to store anything else that's valuable, right? If you have a house or an apartment, you have to store all your belongings anyway. And of course there's renter insurance or home insurance or anything like that. It's just a cost built into it, and you've got to consider how much is it worth to you. So it doesn't automatically make it a good investment or a bad investment. It's just part of what has to go into your calculation.
And at the end of the day, there was a whole bunch of reasons why they suggested physical silver or gold. First was that it was cool. The second was that if you ever needed to leave a country and go to a different country with it, you could basically hide it and smuggle it into another country. Again, don't endorse that, but that was a big reason. And in 2020, that reason is nowhere close to as valid as it was in 2014. Because in today's day and age, if I wanted to go to a different country and take over $10,000 with me, which is the amount that you legally have to declare, by the way, I don't suggest doing that, but let's say it was 1945, Nazi Germany, and I need to get out of the country with a bunch of money. Well, I'm not doing it with a bunch of gold coins anymore. I'm probably taking a USB drive that has Bitcoin or some other cryptocurrency on it. So, all the reasons for holding this stuff basically don't make any sense.
Okay, basically don't make any sense. Okay, interesting. So there's an interesting point here that I actually went through something just like what he's talking about. When was this? This was 2019, so before COVID and before his video actually. I moved from New York to California. Okay, so I drove all my possessions in a car across the country, including a small portable safe, roughly the size of like a small microwave. And I had gold and silver in there. After living in California for 5 weeks, my fiance and I decided that we didn't want to live there anymore. So we decided to take a road trip through Mexico. The problem is we had all of our possessions with us in 2 vehicles, and we did not want to take them into Mexico. I did not want to take my safe into Mexico. I did not want to take gold and silver into Mexico. We had plenty of other things we did not want to take into Mexico. So we had to find somewhere where we could leave behind many of our possessions in California, spend our time in Mexico. By the way, it was 8 months in Mexico, and then pick up our stuff on the way back. So I actually left my physical gold and silver with someone I trusted who lived in California, spent 8 months in Mexico, and with me in Mexico, I took basically a USB drive with Bitcoin on it. And then after the road trip was over, we actually came back through Texas, nowhere near California. And so we had to have a safe and plenty of other things shipped to us for lots of hundreds of dollars. We had to have everything shipped back to us. And that's how we got back our physical possessions. So it is interesting when you do cross over international borders, it is much easier to take Bitcoin with you. I didn't even have to think about it. Whereas the gold and silver was actually kind of an impediment. So that's an actual thing that I had to deal with about 5 years ago. But if you're not taking road trips through foreign countries, you probably don't have to worry about it. And if you're not worried about, fleeing your country for whatever reasons, you might not have to worry about that either. So this is a risk that everyone has to figure out for themselves. Maybe gold and silver makes sense, maybe Bitcoin, maybe a combination of the three, which is what I do. But you got to decide for yourself.
And the only reason that somebody really becomes a stacker in today's day and age, in my opinion, is if they're conspiracy theorists. If they think that this is better than cash or better than holding an investment in a online investment portfolio, and therefore, they think that the world one day will come to an end and this is what's going to be able to save them. And you know what? I don't think that this is what's going to save somebody from basically not having any money or having any sort of ability to buy things.
Okay, it's funny that he says it's not going to save you from not having any money because he's holding money. So money is the thing that will save you from not having any money. But anyways, yeah, I don't think you have to be a conspiracy theorist to think that owning gold and silver is a good idea. It's just saving money, right? And if you ask somebody, is it a good idea to save money? The answer should be obviously yes. And then the question becomes how much. So part of how he's phrasing his argument here is as an all or nothing argument. Like, do you want to have an extreme bunker mentality, or do you want to be like a normal person? That's sort of a false dichotomy. It makes a lot more sense to say, like, there's a reason to do just about everything under the sun, and you got to ask yourself, does it apply to you? And as you think about constructing your portfolio, you got to ask yourself, what percent do I want in gold? What percent do I want in silver, Bitcoin, stocks, right? Digital versions of various investments. If you think about it on a portfolio basis, you say, like, how does a physical allocation to gold and silver complement a digital allocation to stocks and whatever else? So it's not an all or nothing situation. It's how much of each. I think you'll make better decisions when you approach it that way.
If the economy goes to, hell in a handbasket. So, this was a fun investment for basically 7 years. It was an interesting investment for 7 years. It's one that I definitely wouldn't make again. All of this stuff, all this gold and silver is going to be gone by the time that you watch this video, except for this bar, this NTR bar. I might keep this just as a reminder myself of why you shouldn't invest in things that you don't understand. And, for the most part, my time with this was nice. It's cool. It's nice to show to people. It was nice to cut out single bars and give them to families when they had their first child and just say, hey, here you go. This is a little present from me. But this stuff, it's all got to go.
Well, okay, so this video came out roughly 3 years ago. So if he sold all this stuff, he's missed out on the gains of the last 3 years. His choice. I guess you never know, unless you do a lot of research, right? You never know if you're at a top or a bottom or somewhere in the middle. So hopefully he doesn't regret selling his gold and silver as much as he regrets buying it. So we'll see.
Now, in comparison to this, you'll also see that there's another pile of stuff over here. This is all things that my grandparents and my parents collected. This all has sentimental value. This isn't going anywhere. It's going straight back in the safety deposit box because this sort of thing is really cool. And where I would spend a little bit of money going forward in coins and precious metals is in things that got discontinued. So things like old Canadian money, $20 bills, $10 bills, things like pennies, things like nickels when they eventually stopped making those. I think they're all cool investments, and it's cool to have things that have sentimental value. Things like this. This is 4 3-pence coins that were given to my mom they were given to my grandmother when my mom was born. One of these goes back to 1916. There's a whole bunch of silver dollars that my grandfather collected. There's a whole bunch of Montreal silver coins, you know, real nickels and series of coins. Like these are all wrapped up. I've never opened them. I don't even know what they are, but they appear to be some sort of a Canadian series of coins like.
Okay, well, yeah. So old coins and stuff. I mean, I have a personal affinity for, old coins, old silver dimes, and real nickels and all that kind of stuff. So I have a very small collection of that stuff. Whenever I chance upon them, I snatch them up. But I don't think of these as investments. I also don't think of them as saving. I think of them as like a sentimental kind of cool thing that's neat. And I'm not really putting any eggs into that basket. I don't consider that part of my portfolio. I consider it as like, money I may have spent like going to the movies, but instead I'm going to, buy some old coins. So I would not encourage people to make collector's coins or old coins any type of a retirement strategy or an investing strategy. Yikes.
Like penny, nickel, quarter, all that stuff. So things like this that have sentimental value, coins, stuff like that, I don't think anything like this should ever be sold. There's probably just as much value, if not more value here as there is in this pile. But this sort of thing, gold bars, silver bars, this is an unnecessary investment. It's, like I said, one of the stupidest investments I've ever made, and one that I am glad to be divesting myself of, and ultimately I get a little bit of return from. So if you found this video interesting, if you found my story about...
Okay, so I feel bad for this guy. He got burned a little bit and then he didn't have great returns. But that's not a reason that something's a bad investment. You got to do your own research. You got to do a lot of homework. You got to find a company that you trust. And if you're going to have someone store it for you, you got to find a custodian that you trust. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. I hope he feels better about it. I hope he continues to have an open mind. And I hope you guys have an open mind about all the investments under the sun. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Do you agree with this guy? Do you disagree? What are your thoughts? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.